There's a chicken feed that costs almost nothing and doubles egg production within weeks. The feed is not sold in any stores. It does not come in bags with fancy labels or scientific-sounding ingredients lists. It has no brand name and no marketing budget promoting it. It requires no middlemen taking their cut, no shipping costs added to the price, and no corporate profits built into every single purchase you make. This feed grows right in your own kitchen, your garage, or your backyard in exactly 72 hours from dry grain to fresh green nutrition ready to serve. This feed transforms cheap grain costing pennies into living superfood that chickens devour with enthusiasm bordering on absolute madness. Hens that receive this feed regularly produce significantly more eggs than hens eating commercial alternatives. The eggs they lay have darker orange yolks indicating superior nutrition. The shells grow thicker and stronger, reducing breakage losses. The birds themselves become noticeably healthier, more active, and more resistant to the diseases that constantly plague commercial flocks, eating nothing but dead processed pellets from bags. This feed has been known to farmers for literally thousands of years across every continent. Ancient civilizations routinely sprouted grains for their livestock whenever fresh pasture was unavailable during winter or drought. Traditional farmers across Asia, Europe, and Africa continued this essential practice through countless generations without interruption. The knowledge was common, widespread, and freely shared among anyone who raised animals for eggs or meat. Then the commercial feed industry emerged. Corporations built empires selling processed pellets in bags. They spent millions convincing farmers that commercial feed was scientific, modern, and superior to traditional methods. They funded research, promoting their products while ignoring research that validated free alternatives. They captured agricultural education, ensuring that farming schools taught dependence on purchased inputs rather than self-sufficiency. The feed industry generates over $400 billion globally every year. Every chicken eating sprouted grains instead of purchased pellets represents lost revenue. Every farmer who discovers this free alternative stops buying bags that generate corporate profits. The industry has no incentive to share knowledge that destroys their business model. This is sprouted grain fodder, the 72-hour transformation that turns cheap seeds into living chicken feed, the method that doubles egg production for pennies, the ancient knowledge that the feed industry desperately hopes you never discover. Today we are opening the file on this free feed. The science behind why sprouted grains outperform commercial pellets. The documented egg production increases that research confirms. The industry tactics that suppressed this knowledge, and exactly how to grow unlimited free chicken feed starting today. If this matters to you, subscribe and hit the bell. The file is open. There is a biological transformation that occurs during sprouting, which explains why this feed produces such dramatic results in laying hens. Dry grain is a seed in dormant state. The nutrients inside are locked in forms that chickens cannot fully access. Enzyme inhibitors protect the seed from premature germination. Phytic acid binds minerals, making them unavailable for digestion. The seed is designed to pass through digestive systems intact, so it can germinate after being deposited elsewhere. Sprouting unlocks everything. When water activates the seed, enzymes break down complex starches into simple sugars. Proteins convert into amino acids that are immediately bioavailable. Phytic acid decreases dramatically, releasing bound minerals for absorption. Vitamin content explodes as the seed prepares to become a growing plant. Dr. Shavin and Dr. Kadam at Mahatma Phule Agricultural University published comprehensive research on nutritional changes during sprouting in the Journal of Food, Science, and Technology. Their analysis documented vitamin increases ranging from 20% to over 600%, depending on the specific vitamin and grain type. Vitamin C, virtually absent in dry grain, appears in significant quantities within 72 hours of sprouting. The protein quality improves even more dramatically than the quantity increases. Sprouting breaks long protein chains into shorter peptides and free amino acids. These smaller molecules require less digestive effort and achieve higher absorption rates. The same amount of protein delivers more actual nutrition when sprouted versus fed dry. Dr. Pir Mohammed at the University of Agricultural Sciences in Bangalore studied sprouted grain specifically as livestock feed. His research documented improved feed conversion ratios across multiple animal species, including poultry. Animals eating sprouted grain gained more weight or produced more eggs per unit of feed consumed compared to animals eating the same grain in dry form. The enzyme content of sprouted grain provides additional benefits that dry grain cannot match. Living sprouts contain active enzymes that assist digestion of other foods consumed alongside them. These enzymes reduce digestive stress, allowing animals to extract more nutrition from their entire diet rather than just from the sprouts themselves. There is documented evidence of egg production increases that validates what traditional farmers have observed for centuries about sprouted grain feeding. Research conducted at multiple agricultural universities has measured egg production in hens-fed sprouted grain versus conventional feed. The results consistently show improvements ranging from 15% to over 50%, depending on the baseline diet being compared and the specific sprouting protocol used. Dr. Naik and colleagues at the Kerala Agricultural University conducted controlled trials comparing laying hens fed commercial feed alone versus commercial feed supplemented with sprouted grain fodder. The supplemented group showed 23% higher egg production over the 12-week trial period. Egg weight also increased and shell quality improved measurably. The egg quality improvements matter as much as quantity increases for many small-scale producers. Yolk color darkens dramatically when hens consume fresh green sprouts. This deeper orange color indicates higher carotenoid content, the same antioxidant compounds that make carrots orange and tomatoes red. Consumers perceive darker yolks as healthier and more natural, commanding premium prices at farmers markets. Shell thickness increases because sprouted grains provide calcium in more bioavailable forms than commercial feed. The sprouting process converts calcium compounds into forms that hen digestive systems absorb more efficiently. Stronger shells mean fewer cracked eggs and reduced losses during collection and transport. Dr. Shariat Madari at Tarbiyat Madaris University in Iran published research on sprouted wheat specifically as poultry feed. His trials documented improved feed efficiency, meaning hens produced more eggs per kilogram of feed consumed. This efficiency gain translates directly to reduced feed costs for farmers, even when purchasing grain to sprout rather than growing it themselves. The nutritional density of sprouted grain explains these results scientifically. Fresh sprouts contain living enzymes, bioavailable vitamins, readily digestible proteins, and active plant compounds that processed pellets simply cannot provide, regardless of their formulation. Life produces more life. There's a commercial feed industry that generates massive profits by keeping farmers dependent on purchased inputs rather than teaching self-sufficiency. The global animal feed industry exceeds $400 billion in annual revenue. Companies like Cargill, Archer Daniels Midland, Carowan Pockfand, and New Hope Group dominate markets spanning every continent. These corporations profit from every bag of feed sold and lose money whenever farmers produce their own. The industry funds agricultural research at universities worldwide. This funding shapes what questions researchers ask and what solutions they investigate. Studies examining free alternatives like sprouted grain receive minimal support compared to studies developing new commercial feed formulations that generate licensing fees and product sales. Agricultural extension services historically taught farmers self-sufficient practices, including sprouting grain for livestock. As corporate influence over agricultural education increased, these traditional teachings gradually disappeared from curricula. Modern agricultural programs emphasize purchased inputs as essential components of efficient production. The marketing of commercial feed emphasizes scientific formulation and nutritional completeness. Labels list precise percentages of protein, fat, fiber, and vitamins. This scientific presentation implies that homegrown alternatives cannot match laboratory-designed perfection. The implication is false, but the marketing works. Feed industry publications rarely mention sprouted grain despite its documented benefits. Trade magazines, supported by feed company advertising, focus on commercial products and the research funded to promote them. Information about free alternatives simply does not appear in channels that industry advertising dollars control. Small-scale farmers who discover sprouted grain feeding often report that their local feed store representatives actively discourage the practice. Claims that sprouting is too complicated, too risky, or nutritionally incomplete come from salespeople whose income depends on selling bags, rather than sharing knowledge that eliminates purchases. The suppression is not a coordinated conspiracy requiring secret meetings in boardrooms. It is simply the predictable result of economic incentives shaping information distribution. Nobody who profits from selling commercial feed has any reason to promote free alternatives that eliminate their revenue. The knowledge disappears not through active suppression, but through systematic neglect by everyone with platforms to share it. There is an ancient history of sprouting grain for livestock that demonstrates this knowledge was once common across cultures worldwide. Chinese agricultural texts from over 2,000 years ago describe sprouting grain for animal feed during winter months, when fresh forage was unavailable. The practice allowed farmers to provide green nutrition year-round without depending on pasture that winter killed. The knowledge was considered basic animal husbandry rather than specialized technique. European farmers sprouted barley and oats for horses, cattle, and poultry for centuries before commercial feed existed. Farm manuals from the 1800s include detailed instructions for building sprouting racks and managing the germination process. The practice was standard enough to require no special justification or explanation. Indian farmers traditionally sprouted various grains for livestock during dry seasons when fresh vegetation was scarce. The practice connected to broader cultural knowledge about sprouting for human consumption as well. The nutritional benefits were understood through observation long before scientific instruments could measure them. African pastoral communities sprouted grains for livestock during droughts and dry seasons when grazing land could not support animals. The practice provided essential nutrition that kept animals alive through harsh conditions. Survival depended on knowledge that modern commercial systems have deliberately erased. The industrialization of agriculture systematically displaced this traditional knowledge. Commercial feed companies offered convenience and consistency that appealed to farmers scaling up operations. The labor of daily sprouting seemed inefficient compared to simply opening bags of ready-made pellets. Convenience triumphed over cost savings and nutritional superiority. Within 2 generations, knowledge that had been common for millennia became obscure. Farmers today must rediscover through internet research what their great-grandparents considered obvious. The feed industry successfully captured market share by making customers forget that free alternatives ever existed. There's a simple method for sprouting grain that absolutely anyone can implement with minimal equipment and virtually zero cost beyond the grain itself. Any whole grain that has not been processed or heat treated will sprout successfully and produce nutritious fodder. Wheat, barley, oats, rice, millet, and sorghum all work extremely well for this purpose. The grain must be completely raw and intact, not rolled, cracked, steamed, or otherwise processed in ways that kill the living embryo inside. Feed stores sell whole grains very cheaply since they are considered basic agricultural commodities rather than premium specialty products, commanding high margins. The container can be as simple as a plastic tray, an old bucket, or even a sheet of plywood with raised edges nailed around the perimeter. The grain needs to stay consistently moist, but definitely not submerged in standing water that causes rotting and mold growth. Drainage holes drilled in the bottom or tilted surfaces that allow excess water to run off prevent the waterlogging that ruins batches. Many successful farmers simply use old baking sheets from their kitchen, plastic storage containers with holes drilled in the bottom for drainage, or purpose-built commercial fodder trays designed specifically for this application. Day 1 involves soaking the dry grain in water for 8 to 12 hours. This initial soak activates the germination process and softens the seed coat. After soaking, drain the water completely and spread the grain in a layer approximately 1 to 2 inches deep across your chosen container. Days 2 and 3 require keeping the grain moist through regular rinsing or misting. The grain should be dampened 2 to 3 times daily, but never left sitting in water. Adequate airflow prevents mold growth that can occur in stagnant, humid conditions. A simple fan or outdoor location with natural breeze provides sufficient ventilation. By 72 hours, the grain is transformed into a mat of sprouts, with white roots tangled together and green shoots emerging from each seed. The entire mat lifts out as a single piece that can be fed directly to chickens. The birds consume everything including roots, seeds, and green growth. Temperature affects sprouting speed significantly. Warm conditions between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit produce fastest results. Cooler temperatures slow germination but do not prevent it. Extreme heat above 85 degrees can encourage mold growth and should be avoided. A rotation system ensures continuous supply. Starting a new tray each day means fresh fodder is ready every day once the initial 72-hour cycle completes. 3 to 5 trays cycling continuously can feed a substantial flock indefinitely for the cost of bulk grain. There is a calculation that reveals the dramatic cost savings sprouted grain provides compared to continuously purchasing commercial feed at retail prices. Commercial layer feed costs between $15 and $30 per 50-pound bag depending on brand, quality tier, and geographic location. A laying hen consumes approximately 1/4 pound of feed daily during peak production, meaning one 50-pound bag lasts one hen roughly 200 days. Annual feed cost per hen therefore ranges from $27 to $55 using commercial pellets purchased from feed stores or farm supply retailers. Whole wheat or barley purchased in bulk from feed mills or agricultural suppliers costs between $8 and $15 per 50 pounds. The sprouting process increases the weight by approximately 2 to 3 times as the grain absorbs water and grows new plant tissue. 1 pound of dry grain reliably becomes 2 to 3 pounds of fresh green fodder ready for feeding. The mathematics favor sprouting dramatically. If 1 pound of grain produces 3 pounds of fodder, that 50-pound bag yields 150 pounds of fresh feed. At 1/4 pound per hen daily, one bag feeds one hen for 600 days rather than 200. Annual cost drops to approximately $5 to $9 per hen. The savings multiply across larger flocks. A flock of 50 hens costs between $1,300 and $2,700 annually using commercial feed. The same flock eating sprouted grain costs between $250 and $450. Annual savings range from $1,000 to over $2,000 for a small backyard flock. Labor represents the main cost that calculations often ignore. Sprouting requires daily attention that commercial feeding does not demand. However, the actual time involved is minimal once systems are established. 10 to 15 minutes daily maintains a rotation producing unlimited fresh feed. Most farmers find this time investment trivial compared to the savings achieved. The feed industry hopes you never perform these calculations. They hope you continue believing that commercial feed is necessary for healthy, productive birds. They hope the convenience of opening bags outweighs your willingness to spend 15 minutes daily saving thousands of dollars annually. There's a future where more farmers discover this knowledge and reduce their dependence on corporations that profit from keeping them ignorant. The internet has enabled knowledge sharing that feed industry advertising cannot fully counter. Farmers post videos showing their sprouting systems. Online communities discuss techniques and results. Information suppressed by agricultural education systems spreads freely through channels that corporations do not control. Small-scale farmers leading the revival demonstrate results that convince their neighbors. Darker egg yolks and doubled production are visible evidence that no marketing campaign can dispute. Word of mouth spreads knowledge that industry publications refuse to print. The feed industry will not disappear because of sprouted grain adoption. Large commercial operations running hundreds of thousands of birds cannot easily implement daily sprouting routines. The convenience of delivered pellets justifies premium prices at industrial scale where labor costs dominate calculations. But backyard flocks and small farm operations can realistically achieve near-complete feed independence using knowledge that costs absolutely nothing to acquire and almost nothing to implement once you understand the simple process. Every single farmer who learns to sprout grain becomes one fewer customer for corporations that have built their entire business model on manufactured dependence and suppressed alternatives. One free feed ready in exactly 72 hours from start to finish. Documented increases in egg production, validated by peer-reviewed research at multiple universities. Thousands of years of traditional knowledge, deliberately displaced and forgotten because of industry marketing campaigns. Cost savings of over $1,000 annually for even small backyard flocks. A method simple enough that absolutely anyone can implement it, successfully starting today with materials already available. The file is now completely open. What happens next depends entirely on what people choose to do with this information. Subscribe now and hit the bell to see what other free methods were deliberately hidden so industries could profit from selling expensive replacements.